This week is Holocaust Memorial Week. It is the time for everyone to remember the millions of people killed in the Holocaust, Nazi persecution and in subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. This week we can honour the survivors of these regimes of hatred and challenge ourselves to use the lessons of their experience to inform our lives today. This week is when we seek to learn the lessons of the past and to recognise that genocide does not just take place on its own. It's a steady process which can begin if discrimination, racism and hatred are not checked and prevented.
We are fortunate here in the UK that we are not at the risk of genocide. However, discrimination has not ended. There is still much to do to create a safer future, and this week is the opportunity to start that process. Keep the memory alive is the theme for the Holocaust Memorial Week this year. And on the 27th of January, it marked the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. 2015 was also the 20th anniversary of the genocide in Bosnia. Therefore, it is particularly appropriate that the theme for this major anniversary year focuses on memory.
The poem Never Shall I Forget from Night by Eli Wiesel will be read by Mr. Dawson. Eli Wiesel was born in 1928 in Transylvania, which is now part of Romania, and was 15 years old when he and his family were deported by the Nazis to Auschwitz. This poem is from the memoir he wrote about his experiences.
Never shall I forget that night, the first night in camp. Turned my life into one long night, 7 times sealed. Never shall I forget that smoke. Never shall I forget the small faces of the children whose bodies I saw transformed into smoke under a silent sky. Never shall I forget those flames that consumed my faith forever. Never shall I forget the nocturnal silence that deprived me for all eternity of the desire to live. Never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams into ashes. Never shall I forget those things, even when I condemned to live as long as God himself. Never.
So what can we do to keep the memory alive of not only those who perished in the Holocaust and in subsequent genocides, but also those who survived and their families who were affected too? Preserving memories, keeping diaries and passing on memories all represent forms of resistance and ways of preserving the identity of both survivors and those who were murdered. Survivors and witnesses of the Holocaust or subsequent genocides have memories which are first-hand personal testimonies that can educate us and inform our commemorations.
For those of you who have a brown envelope, please could you open it and take a minute to read the extracts of individual survivor testimonies within them before we resume the service.
By reading these individual survivor testimonies or listening to the testimony of an actual survivor just like we did, we humanise the victims so that we can put faces and stories to the impersonal statistics that are thrown at us. It is those that we will remember, not dates and numbers, and by passing these on is how we will keep their memory alive.
I would now like to share with you an analogy that was given to us by the rabbi who came to us to Auschwitz, which went something along the lines of this. If you have £1,000 and you share it amongst yourself and 9 other people, each person will receive £100 and you yourself will be left with £100. That is 1/10 of what you originally had. The same can also be said for any other material possessions. However, if you take a candle and you light it and share the flame with other people by lighting their candles, you end up with more energy than what you originally had. Now compare this to love. If you share the love in your heart with other people, you don't have less of it, but more. It's not like hate, which pushes people away and leaves you feeling empty. Love is like light, illuminating the darkness and filling people with radiance, beauty and joy. So take the love in your hearts and share it with others. The more you give, the more will come flooding back to you.
A prayer will now be read by Sarah, our chaplain.
Today we remember the victims of the greatest crime of man against man. The young, the old, the innocent, the 1.5 million children, all killed because they were deemed guilty of the crime of being different. We remember what happened when hate takes hold of the human heart and turns it to stone. What happened when victims cry for help and there is nobody listening. We remember and pay tribute to the survivors who bore witness to what happened and to the victims, so that robbed of their lives, they will not be robbed also of their deaths. We remember and give thanks for the righteousness of the nations who saved lives, often at risk of their own, teaching us how, in the darkest night, we can light a candle of hope. Today we call on you, Almighty God, to help us hear your voice that says in every generation, do not murder, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbour, do not oppress the stranger. We know that whilst we do not have the ability to change the past, we can change the future. We know that whilst we cannot bring the dead back to life, we can ensure their memories live on and that their deaths were not in vain. And so we commit ourselves to one simple act. Remember. May the souls of the victims be bound in the bond of everlasting life. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you very much for your time, everyone. In a moment, I will ask you to come and place a stone beneath our Holocaust memorial tree to mark your respect. 6 of us will place a key beneath the tree instead of a stone. 1 for every 1 million individuals who lost their lives during the Holocaust. When we do this, we will think about the victims who took their house keys with them before being deported to the ghettos and concentration camps because they thought they were going home. Therefore, the key represents hope. For the victims, it was the hope and determination to survive. For us, it represents hope for the future and hope for humanity. So walk away from here, not with a feeling of anger, or depression, or despair. Be proud of who you are, and walk out of here with your head held high. If we can be this barbaric and this destructive, we can also be the most incredible species on